You can get a variety of different effects from the same texture depending on the way that you impress the clay. Here I've created a patty and I'm impressing the clay with my fingers directly on the texture. This is a technique I might use with a rope of clay if I was creating a cuff bracelet. This texture has some very wide areas and then some very thin lines. So where it's wide, you can see that the clay is much higher than the fine lines, which can only go so deep. Sometimes a texture will look good like this, but other times it might not be as clear or you just don't like it. So just use the acrylic work surface to equalize it. And for this texture, I think it looks better to have it equalized like this. Another way that is used to create textures is just to take a patty or a slab and just roll it directly on the texture with the roller. And with this particular texture, again, I think it looks better to equalize the depth, so I'll use my acrylic work surface to press down those high spots. And then I think that this gives me a much nicer looking texture. I'm starting with a slab that's 6 cards thick, and I'm going to roll it down to 4. So I'm going to use my rolling frames, and I have another texture tile left and right to rest my rolling frame on. So now this gives me 4 cards of thickness on the bottom and 2 cards of thickness on the top. I want to press the high spots down, but I want to keep it calibrated, so I'm going to place my number 4 rolling frame, the same one that I rolled it down to, and then just impress with the acrylic work surface, and that gives me a calibrated textured slab. If I put just 1 card of thickness in the texture, so I started with a slab that's 4 cards thick, and now I'm going to roll it down to 3 cards, and that's going to give me a depth that does not have to be equalized because I'm only going 1 card deep into the texture. Play with the different textures and clay thicknesses to see what works best for the texture and the project that you're working on. You can save a lot of clay by starting with a calibrated slab. For most of our fine line textures, a depth of 2 cards gives the best impression. So I started with a slab that is 5 cards thick, and then I'm going to use my number 3 rolling frame, which is going to roll it down to 3, so I'll have a base thickness of 3 and a texture depth of 2. And most of the fine line designs won't need to be equalized. Rollable textures have a larger area of texture and also a built-in rolling surface. So these ones are very easy to work with, and the rolling frames fit right on top. I started with a slab that was 6 cards thick, and I want a 2-card texture, so I'm rolling it down to 4. And it's the same thing. If you like the texture this way, then it's ready to go. I think this one looks really good with the high spots. But if you wanted to equalize it, then you could just press it with the acrylic work surface, or to calibrate it, use the same rolling frame thickness that you used when you rolled it down. And then you have a slightly different look.